Hello friends, this is going to be a video on how to league start ele-bows. I have league started elemental bows in softcore trade almost every single league for the past 2 years, and here's how you can do the same. Now, hit bows are probably one of the weakest archetypes in the game on a low budget. There's no survivability, you get no damage, there's no recovery, all the upgrades are expensive, there's not a lot of really good uniques. There's a lot of mana issues, you don't really have a good movement skill, it's gonna kill your hands, you have no life, no block, no max res, no move speed, all that shit, right? And you might be wondering why you would ever want to league start bows. So there's like two main build archetypes. Usually people either run Fizz Conversion or Ele Trinity, but because of the fact that right now, high triple E DPS bows are really easy to gear and buy and obtain from essence crafting and shit, there's zero reason for you to go Fizz Conversion. So if you see a guide with Fizz Conversion, that's how you know automatically it's just complete garbage. This isn't really a build guide, this is just gonna like help you filter out all the other build guides because I've seen so many bad ones online. This guide should help you kind of like weave yourself through all the different options and their like pros and cons and maybe some cost saving measures you might be missing. As like a preface to this is how you can tell if your build is shit. If you see on the right here, we have the fastest fuck team located in Vietnam. That's them and their goonies trying to, you know, scam you into RMTing all their gear. If it's, like I said, Fizz to Ele Conversion, it's automatically shit. There's no reason right now where you should be going Fizz to Ele Conversion unless you have, like, all that, like, cool Fizz as added, whatever, and all that stuff. If your build doesn't have crit, it's automatically bad. Crit on the right side of a tree is way too strong right now for you not to go. The only exception should be when you're leveling, and sometimes during early maps if you have precise technique, because that's a really strong option. All the builds should have spell suppression. It's way too easy to get, especially in the next patch that's coming up, for you like not to take it. And all these builds should be on the right side of the tree. You should have Grace or Determination or both. If you can't fit Determination in or Grace in, that's okay. I would recommend Grace, personally, because of the Grace Reservation Mastery. It's very strong, and you don't need a cluster jewel for it. But you should be skilling either Evasion or Determination, otherwise it's like too difficult to avoid Fizz damage, and Fizz to LD on this build is really difficult to find, and Max Res is also really difficult to find. You should be going either Ranger, Duelist, or Shadow. Again, right side of the tree, too many bow nodes, way too strong. And lastly, all these builds should be using Ballista Totem. If you are not using Ballista Totem and you're using a separate 6-link Barrage setup, you're being baited. Because 6-link Barrage is not even close to as good as just using a Totem with a regular Barrage support linked on your regular skill. If you see a build guide with a Barrage setup, either they don't know what they're talking about or the guide is like 30 years out of date. That's kind of it for unifying elements. All other aspects of the build will change depending on RNG or like your budget or like what you like to do. But as of this patch where I'm talking, post 3.18, before the patch notes have come out, these things should never change and you should just use your brain to adapt to changes if they do come. Now, for main skills, you don't really have that many options. You don't have a lot of good ones, at least. There's a lot of bad ones. Usually, most commonly, people use Lightning Arrow because it does more damage than all the other ones. And the Lightning Strike mechanic is really strong. Default to this one if you don't know which one to use. The Lightning Strike, again, very strong mechanically. It's instant. There's no, like, scuffed, weird mechanical stuff you have to overlook. Every single build should work on this skill. Yeah, it's very good. Secondly, there is Eye Shot. Eye Shot should be the second best in terms of damage and has, like, a slight advantage of dealing cold ailments, which can chill and freeze and brittle, and all those ailments are really strong for the build. So, if you want more single target, you might want to go Eye Shot instead of Lightning Arrow, but in terms of clear, this one should be worse. Tornado Shot is the most popular option on higher budgets because this skill has, well, one, you can kind of just aim this wherever, and you don't need to, like, aim at all, which is great for your hands, and secondly, the skill has shotgunning potential, where all the Tornado Shot shots can overlap on a boss, so if you're standing right next to it and you just hold down right click, it'll just do massive amounts of damage. And on top of that, and a very important thing, is that Tornado Shot has a helmet enchant that gives you a secondary projectile on every projectile, which is insane for on-hit effects. You can get, like, life on hit on your, like, Vitality Watcher's Eye and sometimes on the tree, and it's super strong. There's a lot of recovery options. There's Galvanic Arrow, which is more of a meme skill than anything else. It kind of makes your entire screen go into this, like, sieger. The skill scales with projectile speed, which is pretty cool, but there's not much reason to use it over Lightning Arrow. Scourge Arrow is much of the same thing as all the other skills, but you just stand still while doing it, so it's objectively worse. All the other ones are kind of bad. They're different tiers of bad, but, like, you wouldn't want to be using them, especially not, like, Blast Rain or Early Hit, because they rely on added damage from gems, and they don't have a lot of effective damage. As for your single target, you should have a Ballista Totem support. The choice for which skill to use on your Ballista Totem usually will just be whichever skill you're using on your main clear, but Storm Rain is an option, which is not an option for clear, and is very strong for single target. I think it should be the most damage, maybe, but I'm really not too sure which one is the best and at what budget or price ranges you should be using what. You're gonna just have to either test it out or look it up. Havoc had a video testing it, but it wasn't very conclusive. As for your links, again, these are gonna change depending on skills you use. I have some example ones over here. The really only necessary ones are going to be, you're either going to be using GMP or Barrage. Switch, just gem swap right when you're about to do the boss. Swap between either GMP or Barrage. I don't recommend Chain or Fork on lower budgets because the added arrows is really nice for clear. You know, it lessens aim, it ups damage and all that stuff because they can chain off each other. And on top of that, you really want to use Trinity. Trinity is massive damage. You're always going to have Trinity up, usually, and there's no reason not to use it. And lastly would be Inspiration. Inspiration just lowers the mana cost on a 6-link. You should always be using Inspiration because this build has a lot of mana issues, and you don't want to be running that Enduring Mana Flask if you can. I'm not too sure what to run on this Barrage or Totem setup over here. Some people say use multi-totems, some people say just run the same stuff. I have no idea, but the only thing that is kind of like universal is to use Focused Ballista. Focused Ballista is really, really strong as a gem slot, and it can sometimes give you some better single target, but if you're not attacking, it won't attack, which might be a problem with DPS uptime, especially on some harder bosses where you have to move around a lot. As for Ascendancy Choice, the default one is Deadeye. Really, there's no reason not to use Deadeye apart from the earliest stages of gearing. Deadeye has Chain, it's got the extra Proj, it's got Tailwind, and it has massive single target with Focal Point. Just pick the Ascendancy if you don't know what to go and you don't have any other options, or you don't know how to like utilize any of the other options and you're unclear what to do. On screen I have my referential Ascendancy nodes that I like to choose, but some of them can change. Like if you want the phasing stuff on or not the phasing stuff, but the ailment avoidance on Raider, like you can just take that instead of the frenzy generation and stuff. Speaking of Raider is the second most popular choice. It comes with extra mobility, you get free onslaught, the ailment avoidance, like I said, is really strong. Spell suppression can free up some passives on the tree, and you won't need to have any on your gear. But the added attack speed and movement speed and stuff, it is really only good on the lower end when you don't have enough gear to really supplement your damage, or if you're doing content that requires very fast clear speed, like heist or early lab running. I wouldn't recommend Raider all that much, but it is definitely a good option. It's not that much worse than Deadeye, I would say, in terms of your clear speed. It's gonna be worse than single target damage. Champion is another great option. Champion is just strong. I'm bringing this up I'm bringing the PoE up so that if you can see here, usually you want to just path like into like here, and then just branch out into your regular places. Champion itself has Fortify. It's got some aura effects. You can run a free Defiance banner. It's got Intimidation if you want it. It's got Taunt if you want it. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with Champion. It's really tanky. It is by far the tankiest out of all of the ele-bow Ascendancy choices. But it's kind of abuse in a way. I wouldn't be surprised if this Ascendancy gets nerfed soon. Champion benefits a lot right now if you use both Grace to turn Defiance banner and you run Perseverance. Perseverance is usable in this build. Don't look at PoE or Po Ninja and just assume it's not. It is definitely usable, and it's a good sizable damage increase, especially because we don't have a great belt slot other than Mage Blood or Headhunter. Slayer, it's okay. You get Leech, which is great. You get some crit, maybe, which is great. The 15% call is nice, but it's like every node that you're taking on Slayer is kind of just suboptimal. It's mostly because this Ascendancy is just not very strong, but, you know, it is how it is. And then there's Assassin. Assassin is not great because you're getting way too much crit than you actually need. Overcapping crit on this build should not be too hard, and if you are suffering and you can't overcap crit, just run Brittle, right? Like, Brittle is there, you should be using it, there's no reason to run Assassin, I don't think. As for your secondary skills and auras, you should be using some combination of Blink Arrow plus a movement skill. You should use Blink Arrow as your, like, move faster button, because it is... You know, it's there. There's really no reason not to use it. And this build does not get that much move speed. Your options here are going to be Frost Blink, Flame Dash, maybe Smoke Mine if you're like a god gamer. It's going to be up to preference. I personally prefer Dash or Frost Blink. If you have some cast speed somehow, maybe take Flame Dash. I don't know, if you're really... you know, up there to speedrun it, maybe take Smoke Mine. It's all up to you. As for your marks, this is more of a PoE thing. Just look at your crit chance. If you don't have enough of it, consider Assassin's Mark. If you have enough of it, just use Snipers. Sniper's Mark is massive damage. It's one of the only reasons why this build does any single target damage at all. It's gives you like aimbot for clear sometimes. It's really strong. It should be completely automated too with mark on hit. Don't use any other curse if possible. Just use snipers or assassins. As for your guard skill, you should be using Molten Shell, Steel Skin on left click or on like self-cast. And if you're not running armor, just take a cast from damage, take an Immortal Call to try to like, you know, supplement your survivability. In terms of your buffs, there is Blood Rage, there is Phase Run, both okay options if you want it. And there is Cast on Death Portal, which I really recommend. It is unironically insane on this build. It can save you a shit ton of time. You will 100% die. Just accept it, tank the 2 sockets, it's whatever. As for your Tornado and Hydrosphere, which you should be running, at least Tornado, I'd recommend to use this with an Arcness brand and like an Onslaught on hit or a Power Charge on hit, on crit, I should say. It's not worth running Azeniths, usually, and, you know, you really want Tornado and Hydrosphere somewhere in there. Hydrosphere, just free exposure. Tornado, just free damage. If you don't know how these skills work with Tornado and Hydrosphere, basically your Deadeye chain will just chain off your Tornado and then hit the enemy, and it does like some fancy interactions and you do a bunch of extra damage. If you're not using Deadeye, Tornado and Hydrosphere maybe not that great of an option, but you should be running Deadeye, and Tornado and Hydrosphere are great options all around. You're not really not going to be running out of gem sockets. This build doesn't have a lot of socket pressure. There's a lot of color pressure-ish, but socket pressure not so much. In terms of your auras, you have Grace, Term, Defiance Banner. Basic options, at least 1, if not 2, if not 3. I don't know how the reservation's gonna look. You might have to drop Defiance Banner on the next patch, which is, it's fine. Like, Defiance Banner isn't that amazing anymore. But you should really run Grace and Determination. If you get to the point where you can start buying some OK clusters, uncompromising on a small cluster will give you 50% Determination mana reservation efficiency for only 2 points. It's really good. It can help you fit in some extra auras. It's all that shit. Do not use Hatred. If you want a 50% damage aura, run either Wrath or Anger. Hatred is not good on this build. It doesn't do anything. Wrath and Anger, just choose between it. I think most people run Anger, but, you know, it's your choice. Herald of Ice, Herald of Thunder, if you can fit it in. Supplement your damage, supplement your clear speed. Herald of Ice can give you the pops. And, you know, Corpse clearing is very strong for your survivability. Run Precision if you need it. Just run it if you don't have enough crit chance or accuracy rating. Use whatever level you need. And lastly, obviously, there is your Watcher's Eye auras. The most popular one here is going to be Vitality and Vitality on hit. If you need to run Vitality, just run it. The Watcher's Eye is really strong. If you somehow, like, snipe, like, I don't know, Hatred, crit multi Watcher's Eye for, like, 2 shekels, like, just run it. You know, it's great. There's no reason to, you know, try to, like, fuck over yourself by not running the Watcher's Eye aura. As for your gear choice, in general, damage shouldn't be prioritized over defenses. You want to reach that, like, you know, good health pool. You want, like, not reservation, resistances. You want armor, evasion, whatever. Because the more tankier you are, it just means it's gonna be higher effective DPS, and because you can just stand still and tank things, and it increases your, you know, DPS per portal, if you will, by quite a bit. As for your weapon, I recommend just buying one. If it's way too early in the league for you to buy one, just craft it with your essences. Essence spam on a good base. You want to hit, you know, some good EDPS. Usually that just means triple damage prefixes. If you want to finish the craft, and like, let's say you get like tier 1, tier 1, tier 2, you want to finish the craft, prefixes cannot be changed, Veiled Chaos, block damage per charged, unveil it, just pray for double damage or attack speed, and just craft on what you don't have. It's a really easy crafting step by step. There's like no complications. It works every time. Some notes are that all the uniques are bad, but if you're like in whites and you can cop like a Death's Opus for 1C day 1, it might be good. You know, it might be better than what you have right now. More DPS, the better. Get a 6-link on your rare weapon if you can, because it opens up your chest slot for High Desire, which is huge damage. You want to be taking Harvest and Essence on your tree early so that you can do these Essence crafts. And you also want to be prioritizing cold damage for Brittle. Chill, again, is also very strong, but Brittle is, you know, big damage multis. The additional arrow is not only good for Tornado Shot, it's usually should be good for all of your skills, because you should be using broad support. If you're not using broad support, you should. As for your body armor, gloves, boots, and helmets, your body armor should always be a High Desire or a 6-link rare. It's just gonna depend on which one's better, depending on, you know, how many links your bow has, what the rest of your gear is. But High Desire super strong option. It gives you a huge amount of evasion, it gives you spell suppress, it gives you life, it gives you this like massive amount of added damage. There's like no reason not to use it. It is the best body armor for this build, for all of these builds, always. You're almost never gonna beat it until like you know, you get all your Omni and you want attribute gear. But if you can snipe like a 6-link corrupted rare, that might be a, you know, stepping stone towards it. Some other options, early league on the lower levels, if you, I don't know, if you can somehow catch these. Brisk Wrap is okay, it's not amazing. Kintsugi has some pretty good defensive layers. Belly of the Beast or Lure Weave if your build is really bad. And Tabula, you know, it's a Tabula, it just gives you a bunch of extra damage. If you don't care about living, I guess you can just use a Tabula. As for your helmet, you want Gale Sight. Gale Sight gives you Brittle. Brittle solves your crit. Even after the nerf, giving Gale Sight instead of Secret Suffering can give you Shock. But be aware that Gale Sight, again, limits your defensive abilities because Chill and Freeze is very potent. Starkonjas is great. It's got like every stat you want except the resist. This is like the go-to budget option, if nothing else. The Gall, Shrine Nodes, go fast. Maybe Fractal Thoughts might be good. I remember people using it a few patches ago, but that was really with like deck stacking and stuff. But maybe this might be good. Putting up PoE, I have no idea. Azanath is bait. Azanath is really bait. It is a QOL item that you realistically should not be using because it is too expensive. If you can snipe an Azanath for cheap, then you know, just use it. It's great. It's got a lot of good stats. It's the Azanath's casting thing is great, but if you can, don't use an Azanath. Just run an Arcanist brand. Like, I really do not recommend Azanaths. There are so many issues you're going to run into because of the cost of the Azanaths, and one of the big things on this build is getting good enchants, which I should mention, run a rare if you can snipe one with some good enchants, and later on, when you get Omni, you should be running a rare instead of Gale Sight anyways. In terms of your gloves, just use rares with attack speed. Eldritch Implicits on this build, especially Intimidate on hit, is way too strong not to run rare gloves. There really is not any other good option. You know, there's no reason to run like Himshores or anything because we're not conversion, and you know, I don't see any reason not to use rare gloves. If you again, if you have like some tech, I don't know, like some, you know, super obscure unique that I have no idea about, and it's actually super OP, leave it down in the comments, because, you know, I want to know. As for your boots, rare boots with at least 25% movement speed. You want movement speed, it's really important in this build because we don't have any real defensive layers other than just avoid stuff and, you know, tank the rest of the stuff with evasion. Eldritch Implicits on boots, really good. You can roll like avoid chill, you can get like extra movement speed, you can get like tailwind effects, all that stuff. At Series Steps is a great budget option, it gives you all the stuff you want, but you know, it's like none of these uniques are very good. Same with Lioneyes Paws, it's tech, I guess, kind of. Lioneyes Paws can give you some nice utility. You can put like a curse in there if you get extra curse somewhere on your tree or something. You can get like life on hit. You can get, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff. I don't know, maybe you get like some slowing effect or whatever. These can potentially be better than rare boots. Lioneyes Paws is really the only one of these three that I'd recommend. But sometimes it's kind of expensive on League Start. It's just gonna depend. Lastly, Dark Raider Vectors. If you're running Raider, just use it. You know, it's good synergy, gives you a lot of damage. As for your jewelry, your quiver should be a filler slot because, well, there really isn't that many good things on your quiver. Obviously, there's additional arrows. If you can get it, get it. But, you know, the rest of your stats should just be, if you need damage, prod speed, crit multi, whatever. If you want, you know, some extra resist that you can't get anywhere else, just use that. Don't use any rare or uniques. Just use a rare. Void Fletcher is shit. Rigwolds is shit. Hyries is shit. It doesn't matter. Don't bother with it. Just use rare. Rings. Early on, random rare. Get some resist. Fix your res. Get some life. Whatever. You need at least one rare somewhere on the slot because of the fact that this build, like I said before, runs into mana issues. So you want to be crafting that non-channeling mana cost thing. You want to be crafting that on at least one of your rings, if not both. If you're running 2 rares. Now, early game, you'd probably be running like a Taming or a Thief's Torment, maybe. Thief's Torment can actually give a surprising amount of tankiness because of the massive life on hit. The Taming is just really strong. It gives big damage, it gives big res. There's no reason not to use it if you can get it for cheap, but the Taming is usually pretty expensive. As your guild gets better and better, or build gets better and better, you want to be using Mark of the Elder. Mark of the Elder plus a Shaper Ring is way too much damage to give up. It's super, super strong. There's no reason not to use it. When you can, transition into it. As for your amulet, the rares, you know, they're fine, but it's like the amulet slot right now is just so good for extra damage. There's no reason not to use a unique. Obviously Omniscience if you can get your hands on it, but you know, the moment you get Omniscience, this build is done. You instantly won. If you just farm towards it, really, this is your end goal, getting an Omni. As for your uniques, Yoke of Suffering, generic damage, good amount of res, good amount of attributes. Use this one if you don't know what to use. Pandemonious, go-to for ice shot builds. It gives you a huge amount of really, really good defensive options with the chill and all the damage and stuff. Replica Hyries Truth is your, like, more niche option, but it can be really expensive. And, you know, you might have some problems fitting the aura into your build. But sometimes this can give a sizable damage, or a sizable amount of more damage over the other 2 options, if your build can fit it in. Just PoB it. Look at the cost, again. All 3 of these uniques are very expensive day 1 and day 2 and day 3. They can be like, you know, 1x day 1, like 20c day 2 or something. Like, it can be really expensive. Marlene's Fallacy, if you can overcap crit chance a lot, I don't know, maybe you're running Assassin or something, you might want that. As for your belt, just get rare. There isn't a lot of really good uniques. A generic rare will do great. Stygian if possible. There's some life flash mods you might want to roll onto this as well. Just, you know, get the best rare you can. You can get a Bisco's Leash if you're that type of guy. Which you might actually want to just swap in for a quick rampage, but you know, it's your choice. You might also want to engage in some Soul Thirst gaming, because we are near the critical flash nodes for Soul Thirst. Soul Thirst is not a bad option. It can give you like Headhunter style gameplay really early on, and obviously Headhunter, Mage Blood, whatever. In terms of your Flasks and Jewels, you need an Enduring Mana Flask. This is mandatory. If you do not have a sustainable amount of mana, just use an Enduring Mana Flask. Bite the bullet. Take it. You need it. Okay. Running out of mana on this build is terrible, and this build, because it attacks so fast, and you're always going to be running a 6-link. You want the inspiration. You want the non-channeling skills, mana cost thing, and if you don't have those, you're gonna have to be running Enduring Mana Flask. On SSF, this is probably what you're looking for. On trade, you know, we can get around it a lot easier, but even still, early game, Enduring Mana Flask. Life Flask, instant, maybe, if you want it. Quicksilver, obvious. Jade, Granite, Stibnite, obvious. Diamond, if you don't have crit cap. You can get a silver for Onslaught, you can get like an Amethyst, and then, you know, the rest of your flask, whatever. Ruby, Topaz, anything you want. Taste of Hate, Bottled Faith, Dying Sun, these are like 3 generic, you know, attack, build, flask options. Taste of Hate isn't great in terms of like the damage portion, because it's kind of useless. But Taste of Hate is really nice if you're not running armor, because the Take Fizz as cold is really strong. Bottled Faith, of course, gives you crit, massive amount of crit. Not a priority because crit can be found elsewhere and the Flask is way too expensive. Dying some nice damage, of course. And somewhere there you want to get CB immunity, and maybe freeze immunity and curse and ignite and all that stuff. In terms of jewels, rare and abyss jewels can be good, but they're a bit hard to slot in, which because of the the reason we'll see later. Replica Conqueror's Efficiency, priority, get it. If you're in trade, just get it. Inspired Learning is extremely strong in this build. Fit it in if you can. It's really good. You should be aiming for this. Interrogation, if you want Brittle and it's cheap. If Interrogation is expensive next league, I would not recommend it. But if you can find it, slot it in. Brittle's strong. Yeah, it frees up your helmet slot for something else. Your Watcher's Eye, of course. A budget one can be good, like it's just like a Vitality on hit can sometimes only go for 1x, like that's really nice. Lethal Pride, of course. If you get a Lethal Pride with the Trader Keystone, you might want to go for the 4 Flask, 1 empty Flask, and then just get the full uptime on the 4 Flask, which is great for bossing, but it's your choice. Lioneyes Fall, of course. Every bow build uses this. It's super strong. It's super good. I'll tell you where to slot in later. Now, Point Blank or Farshot, in general, take Point Blank if you have bad gear. The damage is way too good to give up, and you... yeah, that thing is finished. The damage is way too good to give up, and you kind of just have to, like, play good mechanically. If you keep dying because of it, just stay away and, DPS the mob from far away. The mob will obviously kill you. Take Farshot if you have the Forbidden Flame, Forbidden Flesh Jewel. It's only really good on Tornado Shot, because of, like, Tornado Shot's, like, secondary, bounce thing. It has a lot more travel distance. I'd say this is more of a preference thing, like, taking Point Blank, but Farshot is... I don't think it's worth the Ascendancy points. Brittle chill. Always take Brittle if Interrogation is cheap. Brittle is still strong. It is still very, very strong. The opportunity cost of getting all that, like, extra crit chance is really expensive. And it's going to give you a lot less survivability, but, Brittle's good. If you take Chill, you might want to get Blanketed Snow on your clusters. Blanketed Snow is an extremely strong cluster. It gives huge amount of damage if you're not running Omni. And, of course, Gale Sight does take up the helmet slot, and it's not a great item apart from the Brittle, and you're probably not going to get any good enchants. And, of course, run Diamond Flask if you don't have Brittle, pretty expensive. Now, hopping over to the tree here. So, you want to be starting off over here, get the Proj speed, or not Proj speed, attack speed and Proj damage. Usually builds look something like this, then you would take these 2 nodes, then you would path down here, get this, maybe take this if you want it, and then you have your two choices between damage or soul suppression. Usually people take both. You go over here, you get the life, take both. Okay, this is like mandatory nodes, I guess, on all of these builds. From here, it's, the world's your oyster. The mandatory nodes really are this kind of cluster of notables. This wheel, Master Fletcher and King of the Hill, is usually entirely always taken on almost every build. At least Master Fletcher, if not both. This is a lot of crit damage and crit chance. Taking this node too, you're right beside this, Acuity gives you a bunch of accuracy. This one gives you a bunch of crit multi. Then you would, usually people go up here and then take the cell suppression. And going up towards the shadow area, you want to, like, come over here. You want to take this for the life. You might want to take this for the leech. Going here, and then down here, you'll have Forces of Nature. This gives you 10% all pen. This is super strong. Over here is, you know, some life, some evasion, and right here you have your chance to take the Grace Mana Reservation Efficiency. Charisma might be good depending on how your auras are looking, but if you don't need it, I wouldn't be pathing over here because it's less efficient. But there is a jewel socket here, so if you're going to take Charisma, you want to be taking this as well. Now, going up any further, you would probably be just going to Lioneyes Fall slot, which we'll cover later, but most builds will come down. A lot of builds like to take Primeval Force. This is just a lot of extra damage. You can go here for the effect of non-damaging elements if you have Brittle, but if you don't have Brittle, it might be wiser to go this way for the chance to Shock Freeze Ignite. Going down here, all this way, this entire kind of like line has a lot of good notables. A big one is Point Blank. Point Blank, like I explained earlier, you probably definitely want to take it. There's a Mark node here. This one will give Mark effects and Mark ailments and Culling Strike. In terms of Mark Mastery, people usually like to either take increased effective marks, enemies near your mark are blinded, or if you don't have Frenzy, just take the Frenzy charge when you hit your mark target. Then there's the life here. This will give you a lot of life. This is a big wheel. It gives you a chance to avoid ailments, which might be great. There's a small bit of stealth suppression here, and there is another projectile damage wheel here that you might want to take. This will give Proj crit and Proj multi. Usually people go the downward side for the multi, and a lot of people like to take the long shot wheel here. This gives Proj speed, which Proj speed can be skilled through this bow mastery that gives Proj speed to damage, or Proj speed increase in reductions in Proj speed applies to damage of bows. This is super strong. You definitely want to take this. This is just free damage, and there is Proj speed here. In terms of spell suppression, because of how much spell suppression we're getting on our tree, and you know, with High Resire, you want to be taking this. Crit chance is increased by chance to suppress spell damage. There's no reason not to take this. This is just free damage. Both there's a life mastery here and here. You want to be taking 50, like the 50%, or no, not 50%. The 50 added and the 10% added, or 10% increased life. This is kind of your like generic tree at like level 68. There's gonna be some differences. Like some people don't like to take this wheel, some people don't like to take this. There's a mastery here which you might want to take for 50% all res if you have nowhere else to fit that in your build. I would take the exposure, definitely, and on the other wheel up there, you might want either the all res or the ailments effect if you are running Brittle. After that, the rest of your tree should kind of just depend on what kind of gear you have. A popular wheel is going up here and taking these Onslaught effect and Evasion armors. This gives you Onslaught while clearing, and it's super strong in terms of both damage and defenses. And if you're taking Determination and Grace, this will be a lot of extra defenses. Another kind of popular wheel is Blind here. This will give you chance to blind, and it will give you crit chance against blinded enemies. This can be super strong. Blind effects, I think, is getting buffed next patch, so this might be, you know, a great option for you. And of course, there is Valpact, which I personally don't like it. You might want it. There's also this Farsight wheel here, which is a bit suboptimal, but it's still a lot of good damage. And if you're not panning any other nodes, you might want to just take this. Up here, again, Charisma. Wind Dancer might be of your interest if you have a lot of evasion. This is getting buffed next patch, and it's really strong. If you have a lot of evasion, like high amounts of evasion, you definitely want to be taking Wind Dancer for some added survivability. Going up here, of course, like I said, there's the Leech node. There's also this Accuracy node if you want it. And the big thing up here is going to be this Lioneyes Fall. If you don't know what Lioneyes Fall does, I'll switch over to the Lioneyes Fall thing. This one converts melee and melee weapon type modifiers into bow modifiers. On this, there is increased crit chance. All of these nodes will give you crit and crit multi. Right here is just a bunch of extra like attack speed and ailment stuff, and this whole wheel is really strong. Most builds in softcore should be taking this. This will also give you the masteries here. Dagger mastery comes with the crit strikes have culling strike. If you're not taking the mark wheel on the bottom, you want to be taking this on the top. And this will give you some really nice stuff. There is blind, there's leech, there's added damage hits, there's frenzy, you know, all that stuff. Back here, a lot of people like to path up because, you know, you want to be taking both these. And then you would be taking Ghost Dance. Ghost Dance is really strong if you have, like, anywhere just above, like, I don't know, 500 ES or something. On tankier builds and on higher budget builds, you might also want to be taking this Chaos Res wheel, which can help you get to 0 or maybe cap your Chaos Res. And then after this, you have what I like to call the cringe pathing. You go up here, you take these two, or maybe this whole wheel, and then you go here, and then you take this aura wheel, and you know this can help you sort out your auras. And then you go here, and then you go this. This is only gonna be usable on lightning arrow builds. I would not recommend doing this pathing on any of the other builds because it's cringe. On lightning arrow builds, if you don't have a lot of crit chance, you might want to be taking lightning damage with non-critical strikes. It's lucky. And if you do have a lot of crit chance, there is 80% increased crit chance against shocked enemies. This is super strong if you are running low on crit and you need more crit, and you know, maybe you're running Gale Sight or something. This can be super strong. This is really good. Now, this is kind of the only nodes you would want to be taking. Of course, there is some other nodes that might be useful. You might want these. This will give over here crit chance against marked, and then this will give marked enemies take 10% increased damage, which is really strong. But overall, it's not too worth it. In terms of your jewels, you want the clusters to be socketed over here and then down here. You want your inspiration or lethal pride to be socketed right here. If you're not taking the Lioneyes thing, you might also want your inspiration here, because you can just take the power charge and then do this, and this will give you like 3 inspiration with this. Or not inspiration, inspired learning, I'm sorry. And then here I have some like example trees. This would be like, you know, a more like League Start-ish tree. You know, we're taking the cringe pathing here, and then you have like no Lioneyes here, you know, just some jewel sockets here. A Lioneyes tree would probably look something like this. You know, you just, depending on like your tree should usually just be like fixing what you don't have, kind of. Like, if you don't have crit, just get crit on your tree. If you don't have survivability, maybe get some more life, maybe get this wheel, and stuff like that. And then clusters might look something like this. If you're not pathing up here, you're definitely going to be using your clusters. You might want to go over here, you might want to get this jewel slot, you might want to get the charisma. And in terms of clusters, you want clusters that look something similar to this, where you have a large cluster with Feed the Fury, Fuel the Fight, Martial Prowess. Those are the 3 big ones. Martial Prowess is a bit more optional than the other 2, but Feed the Fury and Fuel the Fight will give you a lot of extra survivability. Getting these, and then you want of course, the 2 slots for mediums. On your mediums, you want something like Pressure Points, Basics of Pain. This can help you cap your crit, and Pressure Points, the 5% DD is super strong. And Repeater and Eye to Eye are the other big popular options. This will give you a lot of big Proj damage, and you know, on these things you can slot your leftover jewels. If you want a small, you might want to get the this that I had showed before with the aura effects, or I'm sorry, Armour and Determination mana reservation, and that can be slotted, you know, somewhere here. Or you want to just be fitting in your, you know, leftover jewels. Like here I have a Replica Conqueror's Efficiency. Here I have my Secret Suffering. You might also want to, you know, if you're going for clusters, you might want to just do both. Because, you know, it's big damage. Here you can see my Feed the Fury, Martial Prowess, Field Fight. And then I die, repeater, I die, repeater. And then I have some, like, random jewels. Just lock it in here as a demonstration. That's usually going to be your trees. Of course, just PoB it, see what nodes work the best for your build. It's going to change depending on your gear, how much crit multi you want, how much crit chance you want, how much Proj damage you want, how much bow damage you want. All that stuff is going to change. I would just make up for whatever the rest of your build is lacking. There's a lot of really strong notables, but honestly, there's not too many options. Those nodes that I covered are really the only ones that are worth going into. A lot of the other good nodes are either like too far away or the pathing's too awkward and all that stuff. Now, playing this build on League Start is always gonna be kind of a pain. My recommendation would always just be to like League Start something else. If you're really keen on League starting this build, like, you know, I have been, right now, it's pretty easy to source your gear with the new tree. You want to take Harvest, you want Essences, you want to just slam it on your gear and don't sell them. Infinite Heist Day 1, if you're on trade before one of the maps, is a great way to get the gear you need, because, you know, this build is pretty gear reliant. ID some good rares, or some rares on good bases. You know, get your Watchstones in your tree as fast as possible. Just buy the Watchstones carries if you need to. Don't, you know, just give in, right? Farm content where you can one-shot mobs if you can. This will increase your clear speed by a lot, lower the map tier if need be. In terms of your gear priority, usually the two things you always want to be upgrading is your rare gear and your bow. Your rare gear should have as much resistances and life and all that stuff as possible, so that you can overcap it, so that you can fit in more uniques. You want the highest possible EDPS bow at all times. Stay on top of this, always be upgrading, and you probably want to be prioritizing your links and your sockets. You know, if you can't get the links and sockets, just don't get it. You want to fix your flasks immediately. You want the Enduring Mana Flask. You want, you know, the rest of your flasks, you know, optimize, and you want to get your immunities and stuff. On your chest, early, you want to get a 5-link. 5-link is big damage over a 4-link. It's going to give you a lot more damage. It's gonna be, if you fit in slot in the inspiration, it's going to give you a lot more mana uptime. After that, you probably want a Gale Sight or a Starkonjas, or, you know, whatever cheap helmet you're trying to run. I recommend a Starkonjas or a Gale Sight because these are great budget options and they have a lot of value over a rare hat, but, you know, if you can't fit it in, of course don't. After that, you probably want to look to get like a 6-link chest, maybe corrupted, or like a 6-link weapon if you want to craft it on yourself with a high resire. A 6-link is just a big amount of damage, and a high resire is also a big amount of damage. So if you can get a 6-link weapon with a high resire, it's, you know, gonna be great. Oh, this is also why I recommend crafting your own weapon instead of buying it, because, you know, you can get the 6-link. And after that, if on trade, you want to get like a Replica Conqueror's Efficiency, you want to get the Inspiration, and you want to start swapping out of that Mana Flask. And then after that, Yoke of Suffering, Pandemonious, Replica High Truth, whichever one's cheaper, whichever one fits into your build better. Maybe after that, get like a Taming if you need it, because this will help you, you know, fix a lot of the rest of your gear, and, you know, you can start transitioning into more expensive gear. At some point, you want to just stop. Farm up an Inspired Learning. This will give you big amounts of damage, and the price of Inspired Learning early will usually always go up, I think. And then you want to be farming towards an Omniscience transition. Now, this Omni transition is by far the most important takeaway from there. Okay, never just get stuck on farming all this like shit gear and getting these content upgrades. Just get an Omni. Omni fixes all your damage, Omni fixes all your gear. Of course, in 3 patches, when Omni's deleted fucking nukes from the atmosphere, don't take this advice, but right now, 3.19, 3.18, just get an Omni, okay? Omniscience fixes all your damage is shoots. You get all your res. It's fucking amazing. Every piece of gear works. It's the best item in the game. Now, that should be it. If you like playing these bow builds as much as I do, I hope you have a great, successful league start. I hope you become a ele-bow Chad, and I hope you find some new cool tech so that I don't have to suffer as much as I do now.